today we're having this masterclass, Welding as a Career. So it will be facilitated by Invest in Africa and East Africa Welding Institute. So the outline for today's session is that we do participants briefing, which you've been doing, and welcome remarks to the people who are here, which you've done. And then also we shall be introducing East Africa Welding Institute, who have been our partners for a couple of years. And then we'll also have a question and answer forum and then a closing remarks. So East Africa Welding Institute session will be facilitated by Mariam, who is also an admin and also a business consultant. And Mariam also understands what welding is and what are the areas that welding as a career, where can you plug in. So I'll introduce who Invest in Africa is. So Invest in Africa is actually a network of networks organization. We are an organization that links different organizations, different partners, our SMEs who are our core partners, and also different institutions. So our core initiatives at Invest in Africa is that we do skills where we ensure that SMEs, different organizations, different partners are trained. And so far as of now, we have had, currently what we're doing is that we are working under COVID-19 Survival, Recovery and Resilience Program. So that now we have trained over 2,000 SMEs during the period of COVID from last year to this year. And then also we have linked SMEs to over 154 million worth of finance and contracts awarded. Actually, 154 million of contracts has been awarded by Invest in Africa. And also we have over 5.8 million facilitated by Invest in Africa. 2 million of finance has been accessed by WSMEs in Kenya. So those are our target areas that we provide skills, we do markets, and we do finance. Our key target as an organization is that we want to see over 1 million SME jobs created and 1 billion contracts won by our SMEs. So how are we doing this? So at Invest in Africa, this program that actually we're having this session, this masterclass, has been funded by MasterCard, and we had 5 key priorities on the MasterCard project that we were handling. So like today, we're having a masterclass session. So every masterclass has different topics, different understandings of what we're doing, and different participants, different partners that we are collaborating and working with. So like today's masterclass, we are working and collaborating with East Africa Welding Institute. The session is about welding as a career. So various sessions that we have had different topics, different speakers, and all of these sessions have actually gone into our Knowledge Academy. So we have a virtual library. So our virtual library has different topics that we have engaged during the masterclass. And the second one is that our Knowledge Academy also has the investor readiness sessions that we have had with EY. So EY have been our consultants, our partners that we have worked with on the Knowledge Academy. Then the other one is we have coaching. So coaching is a session where you have a professional coach who takes you through your thinking process. So we've recently completed our project on coaching, where we had over 70 SMEs who were coached, and we have amazing results. You can actually get into our YouTube page at Invest in Africa Kenya, look at the success stories on coaching. How has coaching impacted our SMEs? So that is where you get to know the information on coaching. As of now, we are also partnering with ICF, International Coaching Federation, to ensure that our SMEs continue with coaching. Apart from the MasterCard project, our SMEs will not stop accessing coaching. So we work with the International Coaching Federation to ensure that our SMEs continue to participate in coaching, get accredited coach, and also the package that we have had with ICF is really pocket friendly, and we would look forward to the SMEs actually accessing that. So if you're interested in coaching, kindly reach out to us we shall share our email addresses where you can tell us what you think about coaching. If you're interested, just share your your email address. Then we also have access to finance. Our current access to finance pillar that we are working at Invest in Africa is the one we say that we are partnering with Ernst & Young. So EY are our go-to partners. They're currently training our over 100 SMEs on access to finance. We have had more than 3 SMEs of access to finance, and it's finance worth 1.15 million US dollars. So for the past couple of months, that is the amount of finance that we have worked with EY to ensure that it's been dispersed to our SMEs. So apart from the gap analysis, trainings, the clinics, financial clinics that are being done, our SMEs actually access that. And then we also have peer-to-peer sessions where we match
All right. As I said, we're going to start with Welding 101 and basically discuss a little bit about the pressing need for technical skills in Africa. To begin is we're going to look at the African Development Bank's annual African Economic Outlook, where there was a report that 54% mismatch between the skills of job seekers and employers' requirements in the youth job market of 36 African countries that they were sampling from lack skills, and the rapidly expanding population of the youth is actually a ticking time bomb. We're very much aware that about 20% of the African population is under 25 years. And when we look at Africa, East Africa as a region, the immediate Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya, we have an average age of 17 years. So the youth are quite a big population in our continent, and this results in actually having to build our job market. Because these are the ages that the youth is actually looking for work, and they need to sustain their living. To this end, governments, the private sector, academic institutions, and non-governmental organizations are collaborating on the design and implementation of plans for selected industries with strong competitive potentials like agro-industry and construction. This is basically in relation with the rapidly growing infrastructure projects in our continent. I'll give examples of how government, private sector, I'll give examples of how the government, the private sector, the academic institutions, and non-governmental organizations are collaborating on the design and implementation of plans. One, I'd like to speak about recognition of prior learning. The reason I'm talking about this is because in attendance we have the Jokali Association with us, and we do know that in the informal sector there is a very high a category of welders. Amongst the welders, most of them are not certified or qualified, meaning they have worked in the Jokali sector for quite a long time. And for them to get jobs in manufacturing industries or infrastructure projects or construction, they need to be having a qualification. So to get this qualification, the government, together with the private sector and the informal sector, which is the private sector mainly looking at the informal sector, meaning the Jokali sector, had to work together with academic institutions to come up with a recognition of prior learning aspect that makes sure that Jokali artisans can be assessed and given certification in the type of welding that they do, and also the level of welding and skills that they have on that perspective. When we look at the youth, we do realize that there is a huge lack of job market for the youth who leave, either you leave campus. Yes. So, I was talking about the need for targeted skills in Africa. As you can see, we discussed the 54% mismatch between skills of job seekers. Job seekers basically being the largest population that we have in our country right now. It's actually a major problem around Africa. And we also have the requirements for the job market that most of the youth fail to meet these requirements in 36 African countries, just as the African Development Bank said. And they also quoted this as a ticking time bomb, which concluded that we need to focus on job creation. So to this end, the government, private sector, academic institutions, non-governmental institutions collaborated on a design of and implementation of plans for selected industries with strong competitive potentials like agro-industry and construction in relation with the rapidly growing infrastructure projects in our continent. I use the example of recognition of prior learning. I believe we all got that, and as of right now, I know that there's a huge push for technical and vocational training institutions to take in students who have a lower grade criteria to enter universities. And we have seen that it has dropped, and it's quite important for us to have courses that the youth can take up after KCSE that have a short time span that can allow them to learn a skill that can either be used as an entrepreneurship option or also as a way into entry into career. So the East African Institute of Welding, and I believe this is also being implemented in other institutions, focuses on dual learning. And dual learning means that we make sure that the student comes into the institution, gets the skills, the right skills are taught to them in welding skills, and after 3 months of training, they are sent out into industry through partners we have like Toolkit iSkills. Thank you for your participation in making sure that students get into industry to have a workplace training. And depending on how they do this, it allows for how they perform in industry. It allows for them to be able to either get absorbed immediately or continue, or we continue placing them in other industries to make sure that they get the right skills and get enough experience to be employed into industry. So as a conclusion on this matter, I'd like to say to secure a financial future, it is important to learn a skill that society deems to be necessary in today's time, a skill that makes money today. And that is why today we're going to be talking about welding. And I know there's usually frequently asked questions about welding, so we're going to delve into that in the next slide. Frequently asked questions in welding. We do have, I hope you can all see the same slide we're on. Are we together? Yes. Okay, I've gotten the confirmation. So frequently asked questions in welding. Number one is, what does a welder do? Generally speaking, a welder cuts and joins metal parts by applying heat to the metal with a welding torch. Welders also read blueprints, lay out and position metal parts, inspect workpieces for flaws, or set up and maintain welding equipment. We are also asked quite frequently, is welding hard? I know this is a very pattern question that most institutions get when you're doing admissions. And this is because we are so used to having theoretical learning as opposed to practical learning. And that mindset shift has to come about by giving people who are interested in looking for work the right mentality and the right information to think of hands-on work as something that can be considered to earn a living. There's a certain quote that was said by a company called, a group of people called Future Kenyans, and they said that most of the youth are unemployed right now because they think they look at the real jobs right now require wearing an overall and using your hands. But because our mindset has always looked at the opposite, you're sitting behind a desk and talking to people, we tend not to look at those as skills that we need to have. So as most things, welding takes certain skills and sufficient practice, which we'll look at. Those who like hands-on work and prefers more technical fields, welding can be a good option. Getting welding training will help build a foundation that further experience in the field will improve your welding skills. What education is required to become a welder? So some vocational schools, which I know we're familiar with, for example, the East African Institute of Welding, the Kabete Technical, we have St. Kizito, we have Eastlands College and such alike. I will share some of them depending on your location, how you can find the right institution to go and start your certificate in training. They require a high school certificate. So a KCC certificate if you're in Kenya. If you're not in Kenya and you're joining a different institution, or if you're joining a Kenyan institution, you do have to get your certificate equivalent through the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. And other would-be welders can get hired as helpers, so assistant general workers in welding workshops. And this is what I'd like to refer to as the Juakali and informal workers, and they get on the job learning. Welding students can expect to learn about various welding techniques, safety practices, equipment procedures, professional responsibilities, and work ethics through actually going through vocational schools. And the basic understanding of math, electricity, and physics is also helpful. Many employers prefer candidates who have completed vocational programs, so that is something to keep in mind. We also are asked what skills are needed to become a welder. So some skills include critical thinking, reading comprehension. So you need to know how to read and how to have critical thinking, and operation and control, monitoring and assessing, and orientation to detail. Welders also need to have good vision, manual dexterity, physical stamina and physical strength, and of course the desire and patience needed to learn welding. This continues into question number 5. Does welding require becoming certified? So this question is a bit tricky because we do have certification and we have qualification. So many employers do require some kind of welding certification. There are two types of certification, one which is employer-based certification, and the other which is vocational training or technical vocational training certification. So candidates in employer-based certification are given a welding test of the processes used on a particular job. For example, if you go to the automotive industry, you find that you'll be given assessment before you're given a job to do, and it could be on metal inert gas welding. We do send some of our trainees there, and they have to go through an assessment before, and they will do an assessment on a piece of metal depending on the thickness, the type of metal, and the welding procedure. And if the test is good for that employer, then you're given a report which can now act as a qualification that you're able to do a certain process. And the other is industry standard approved certification through NITA and TVET-CDAC. We also have institutes that are international, like the International Institute of Welding and the American Institute of Welding, and other accredited technical institutes of the mentioned organizations. So any TVET institution or NITA accredited institution can be able to offer these professional certifications. We also have professional certifications like recognition of prior learning, which this requires somebody who has on-the-job experience, rather years of experience in training, and then they are given assessments in a technical institution and awarded a recognition of prior learning. Or for a welder who has on-the-job welding experience, and at the same time is somebody who has also have certification from either NITA, TVET-CDAC, and they require to go through upskilling. So upskilling to achieve an international recognized certificate, then you need to have on-the-job experience, and you also need to have a certificate from a technical institution. Where do welders work? We will look at this later as well. And the vast majority of welders work in manufacturing. Some also work in specialty trades, repair and maintenance, and durable goods merchant wholesale. So welders work outdoors, like on a construction site, as well as indoors, such as in a manufacturing plant. What are the job prospects for women? This has become quite a frequent question because women are actually looking to go into hands-on skills. So as many as many in skilled trade industries have claimed labor shortages, there has become a needed opportunity for those with skills in areas like welding. So traditionally, welding has been considered a men's work. Many employers are embracing women in the welding industry. An added benefit is many skilled trade professions offer higher pay, and other middle skilled jobs women usually work, and generally the ability to earn money after less than a year of training. So what this means is in most professions that women get into, I will use the example of maybe getting a marketing job, a sales job rather. And in a sales job, the average pay is about 20,000 shillings for a woman. And for that is basically talking to people, and it's quite tenuous if you think about it. Just for example, if you see the ladies working in supermarkets and such alike, it's quite a tenuous job, and at the end of the month you get 20,000 shillings. As compared, if you have a skill like welding, you find that you can earn between 1,500 shillings a day to 2,500 shillings a day, which you're paid on a daily basis and a contractual basis, meaning if a job is there for a 3-month period, after 3 months you have accumulated pay for that period of time, and you can get up a higher paying job depending on the project that you have been offered to go do. So the higher pay is a good motivating factor for most people to take up welding. Next, we'll be talking about what does it actually take to learn welding. So welding is a great career if you like to work with your hands, as I said. Stay active on the job or get a sense of accomplishment from a completed project. So given that welding requires handling large pieces of metal, operating various welding tools, and following several safety precautions, this is a highly exact craft. You will need what it takes to perform a welding job properly, such as precision and steadiness. Other relevant competencies pertain to reading blueprints, communication, and completing administrative duties. By attending a premier welding school or a technical welding school like the East African Institute of Welding and other aforementioned schools that I did speak about earlier, you receive the core theory that is required, you receive training and hands-on welding time and necessary to pass the various performance qualifications required by the curriculum that you're using. So just as Mr. Mariga had mentioned earlier, with welding, it is a hands-on skill. So the course needs to have about 80% of the course needs to be practical, meaning you work on a 4-hour a day working on in the welding booth and learning how to do the skill, learning the skill, as compared to spending most of the time in class learning the theory. So the theory bit will definitely make you have these basic understandings of reading blueprints, communication, completing administrative duties, as well as entrepreneurship skills, because remember that it's also an option for you to start a small or micro enterprise. And with companies like Invest in Africa, which do help people who are going into micro enterprise businesses, they help you set up and also maintain your business. So as you do take on the learning of becoming a welder, you do need to keep in mind that the experience and the skill is quite important to have. So as much as you do the skill, you learn the skill, you also need to have the theoretical bit of it and also go into jobs so that you learn how a business works. So that when you consider going into starting an SME, you know how to run a company. So what it takes to learn welding, I'll have a list that we shall follow. These are some of the things we need to look at, which is critical thinking, operation and control, monitoring, reading comprehension, arm hand steadiness, because of course there's going to be the striking of the rod and having to give a perfect weld. We need to have near vision. You need to have control precision. Multi-limb coordination, meaning you can use many of your limbs at the same time, so 2 hands. Problem sensitivity, production and processing, as well as math. Now that we know what it takes to learn welding, I think it's important to also know a little bit about welding techniques. So welders learn different welding processes, and as a welder, you will decide which welding technique to use. We will look at different processes that welding has, and once you know the different welding processes, it will help you choose which welding technique you'd like to be trained in. And there are various factors such as thickness or the shape of a material. In some cases, innovations in welding technology may also affect your decision to choose a specific welding technique. So these various techniques also have varying difficulty levels, but that simply means that some may require more practice than others. So the most common welding techniques we have are shielded metal arc welding, we have manual metal arc welding, metal inert gas welding, tungsten inert gas welding, high frequency welding, which is tungsten inert gas welding, and high frequency TIG, and flux core welding, which is mostly in arc welding, structural welding, pipe welding, aircraft welding, thin alloy welding, and pipeline welding. So to be able to do these common welding techniques, there needs to be some practice and commitment, because Any job or skill will become easier through practice and commitment, especially if you remain disciplined in your training and take an effort in improving. Even after you complete training, it's a good idea to stay up to date with the latest developments in the welding industry, attending trade conferences and subscribing to trade publications. So attending webinars like these, and also subscribing to publications about the welding industry, and also basically industries that need welders are also good ways to show commitment to the welding industry. So learning the right skills and abilities and committing to your training will make a crucial impact in your career. So many welding programs can be completed in under a year, which makes it easier and faster to learn the skills you need to start your career. So I would like us to look at all different types of welding. I will leave the PowerPoint presentation and take you to something else. So these are types of welding processes that I had mentioned we're going to go through. There's more than one way to fuse a metal, so we're going to be looking at them. The most popular types of arc welding, we're going to start with that, and that is shielded metal arc welding or manual metal arc welding. In shielded metal arc welding, the arc is struck when electricity passes through the coated electrode tip and touches the base metal. I believe you can see the images very clearly there of how that works. So we have we have the arc, we have the electrode, which is this, and we also have the electricity. So there's a source of electricity beyond here. And the arc is maintained once the electrode is drawn, and the heat melts the coating of the electrode, which becomes shielding gas. The remainder of the metal electrode melts into the weld pool, becoming part of the weld when the alloy solidifies. The common shielded metal arc welding is one of the oldest and most common arc welding processes, dating back to the 1890s for shipbuilding and construction. Common uses being pipelines, shipbuilding and construction, farm machinery, and underwater welding. The advantage of shielded metal arc welding is that it has portable equipment, it can be used for a range of metal types and various thicknesses, and good for working outdoors. So arc welding is the most commonly type of used welding in Africa, for example, and this is because it works well in construction. And as I said earlier, we're having rapid construction projects and infrastructural building happening in Africa. So it's quite an important skill to have if you're considering a career in welding. We also have gas metal arc welding, which means that the electrode is a metal wire fed continuously through a welding gun. So, and the gas metal arc welding protects the arc from the atmospheric contaminants with a shielding gas. So the natural air is protected using a shielding gas. And there's two types of gas metal arc welding. So there's metal inert gas welding and metal active gas welding, MIG or MAG. MIG uses argon or helium gas and is best for aluminum and other non-ferrous metals. MAG typically uses a combination of argon, carbon dioxide, and oxygen, and is used to weld steel. So you remember we mentioned before that different types of metals work differently with different welding processes. So for steel, you can see we can see here that it works better with MAG process. The common uses for MIG and MAG are pipe welding joints, automotive and production and maintenance, manufacturing, shipbuilding, construction, railroad tracks, underwater welding. The advantages of this are it can be semi or fully automated, good for thin metals or thick joints. Thin metals examples are aluminum, minimal cleanup and not prone to chipping. And then its flexibility because it can weld in any position. Cost effective as well because it's a fast welding process. And then there's minimal waste because the electrode is consumable. We shall now look at flux core arc welding. Flux core arc welding uses a machine to continuously feed an electrode into the weld joint. This type of arc welding uses tubular electrodes filled with flux, an agent that protects the weld from atmospheric contamination as it melts. Flux core is ideal for welding dense sections that are an inch or more thick because it has a higher weld metal deposition rate. The common uses for flux core are pipeline welding, general repairs, shipbuilding, manufacturing, and underwater welding. There are two types of flux core that exist, which is self-shielded and gas-shielded. Um, the advantages of flux core are it's a quicker process than shielded metal arc welding. It is versatile, can be used in automatic or semi-automatic processes. It's a mobile process because you don't need to carry around a tank of shielding gas as well. We have plasma arc welding. You can see as I'm going through this, there's a lot of arc welding, the processes that we have here. So plasma arc welding and gas tungsten arc welding have a lot in common. In both processes, the arc is formed between the work and a non-consumable tungsten electrode, and a shielding gas is employed to protect the weld. Plasma arc welding also uses a plasma gas, which is separated from the shielding gas by placing the electrode in the body of the torch. The common uses, the plasma arc is then constructed with a copper nozzle, that is important to note. And the common uses of plasma arc welding is high-speed sheet welding, microplasma welding, keyhole welding, medical equipment, electronics, aerospace, automotive, welding coated steels. And the advantages are it's a high welding speed, it's fast, cost effective, minimal electrode contamination, reliable arc starts, wide range of operating modes, good for small precision welding applications, and requires less operator skills. We'll look at gas tungsten inert gas welding, which is GTAW or TIG welding. The arc is created with a tungsten electrode gas. The inert gas are used to shield the weld. Welders control the heat with a foot pedal, which while feeding a thin wire or filler metal into the weld pool. This produces a very clean and precise weld. So fun fact is that TIG was used on the tanks that NASA's Saturn V rocket, which supported the Apollo program, the first landing in the moon. So the TIG welding was used on that. Common uses is that aerospace industry, automotive and construction, repair, art, nuclear energy, pharmaceutical, NASCAR, and ship fitting. Advantages that it's used for numerous metals, so a wide range from steel, bronze, nickel, brass, copper, magnesium, aluminum, and gold. It produces welds without sparks, smokes, or fumes. It's good for detailed designs or curves and can be used on thin and thick metals. It's good for applications that require an attractive appearance. Um, Submerged arc welding uses a consumable electrode wire fed through a gun into the weld pool, which serves as both the arc and the filler metal. The atmospheric protection in submerged arc welding comes from a flux core that is placed on the surface of the workpiece. The resulting slag is later removed from the finished product. Common uses is in machine components for heavy industry, vessels and tanks for pressure and storage usage, shipbuilding, wind tower production. The advantages being that it's 4 times faster than shielded metal arc welding, can be semi-automatic or fully automatic, it's high thermal efficiency and sputter-free. If you take note, in most of these advantages, you notice that we always go back and compare it with shielded metal arc welding. So as you're starting to learn how to do welding processes, it is important to start with the one that is mostly required across industry, which is arc welding or shielded metal arc welding, or as we call it in the institute is manual metal arc welding, and then move slowly and learn now TIG welding and MIG welding, so on and so forth. So welding is a diversity of career, has a diversity of career options, which we'll now be looking at. So with so many different applications across so many industries, it's no wonder that the future of welders have countless career paths ahead of them. From the shop floor to the seaport, welding can take you to different places, to the ocean, working on ships. And if you want to immerse yourself in different types of welding, you can be prepared to enter any industry through our professional welding training program. I hope we're on the same page. I'm going to be discussing types of welding joints. So now that we've looked at the different types of welding and the welding processes, the advantages and disadvantages as well as their uses, there's something important that we also need to consider in welding, which is the common types of welding joints. So there are about 5 common joints that fuse metals. We have the butt joint, which is 2 metals are joined at the edges on the same plane to create a flush surface. And we have the corner joint, which is 2 metals are fused to create a right angle or a corner angle. We have the lap joint, which is 1 metal overlaps the other, creating a lap joint. Then there is a T-joint, which are 2 metals are fused at approximate right angles to each other to form the letter T. And we have an edge joint, which is formed when 2 metals are fused to join parallel or nearly parallel metals. I will share an image of this just shortly, just a minute. So these are welding positions that we're talking about, which will basically be telling you about the different joints. So we have fillet welds, we have groove welds. So on a flat position, as you can see, this is how it looks. Throat of the weld, which is vertical, and axis of the weld position. We have a horizontal position here. We have a vertical position and we have an overhead position. As you can see, this is on a fillet weld, meaning it's on an angle. And all of these are now the positions that you have to weld to be able to give a fillet weld. And as the East African Institute of Welding, we do ensure that before you reach position 4F, how we do examine is that you have to start from position 1F on a fillet weld or a plate weld or a butt weld, right? So as you produce from 1F, it is assessed, and finally you can move to 2F, 3F, and 4F. Same way as you go to the groove weld, you will start from 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, so on, so forth. I will be able to share with you these documents when you subscribe through our Welding 101 emails, updates. This is what we're saying is important to be having a regular update on publications in welding and the industry. So at the end of the presentation, I'll be able to help you out with this. We will go back now into the presentation that I was focusing on before, and now we'll be talking on the differences between, actually we'll be talking about first how to welding, how to become a certified welder. So there's a diversity of career options that a welder has. So in a career of welding, you can take you anywhere you want to go, from, as we said, from the skyscrapers building the Nairobi Expressway, or the tallest buildings in Africa, to under the ocean doing submerged welding, cars, trains, planes, sea ships, even space rockets, if made possible. And if you want to immerse yourself in the different types of welding, you have to be prepared to enter every industry, and this has to be done through a professional welding training program. Sorry, I just noticed that I'm not sharing the screen. Okay, so a diversity of career options, just as I said, that's what I was talking about. And so to attain all of this, you need to have gone through a professional welding training program to help you get there. And the way to get there is to become a certified welder. how to become a certified welder. Maybe we can discuss what a certified welder is. So welding depends on a high level of skill and knowledge, as we have seen, and welding is a part of everything. So the strength and stability of such structures that we have talked about that welding uses are important to public safety, and so employers often require welders to show their skill through testing and certification once you enter the field of after welding school. There are two primary types of certification you could seek, which is the employer certification and to become a certified welder through a technical vocational training institute. In Kenya, we do have TVET-SIDAC, which offers National Certificate of Competency to Welding and Fabrication. We do have the NITA Trade Test Certification. These two are quite popular and around different institutions in Kenya, and you can, depending on your location and depending on your ability, where you're chosen to go and study, you can choose to do welding as a NITA Trade certification or a TVET-SIDAC certification. Then with the East Africa Institute of Welding, we have the advantage being the first welding institution that offers international certification to the competency of ISO 9606. We also offer international certification. So those are the three certifications you can get in Kenya at the moment. And as well as website employer certification, which I've explained earlier. So what is the difference between welder qualification versus certification? Welder qualification is part of the process of becoming certified in a specific welding process. So both employers and East African Institute of Welding, together with the Kenya Bureau of Standards as well, offer welding certification tests and qualification tests and certification. So this is basically limited to somebody who is an experienced welder and basically just needs to be done for an assessment because there's a particular job or a particular standard he or she needs to prove he can do so that he can produce to the employer and get hired for the job. So some international institutions like the American Welding Society and the International Institute of Welding diploma certification is more standardized and covers subject areas that employers have not traditionally tested on. So that is why I'm focusing on the East African Institute of Welding and the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which work together to get for welding certification tests, and certain employers also offer this. So employers have also used their own qualification, which I was saying, for years to verify a welder is competent in specific process on a specific type of weld. This helps employers determine whether or not a welder is qualified for a certain assignment or a job. It's important to note that employers don't always require welders to be certified. Some only ask that the job applicant pass a welder performance qualification. So that is what I mean by saying a welder qualification test before hiring them. In this situation, those who pass the test will be considered qualified welders and not certified welders. That is the main difference between certified welders who have written records of their test results and qualified welders. So the benefits of certification. So certification proves to employers that welders are proficient in a specific welding process. And depending on the curriculum used to train, test, and certify the beginner welder to skilled welder, it attests the welder's knowledge of safety, practices, industry standards, welding processes, and such alike. And learning these skills and standards in a welding training program can help prepare welders for the qualification test, which they must pass to become a certified welder or to be given a job by the employer in industry. I will like to pause that there for a little bit as I speak, as I allow for question and answers regarding what we have discussed. Before now we go into the next session of our program, which we will be discussing how we can link you with jobs and how we can get you onto different job platforms that the Institute is involved with, including Invest in Africa's Biashara Now platform and the different jobs and qualifications that are required for welders. Thank you, and I think I'll hand it over back to the host to open the floor for questions and answer session. Santi.
Thank you so much, Mariam. So we shall go to the questions.
As people may be asking, maybe writing different questions there, I'd like to just move ahead and start with something that we did not discuss, which is welding career path. Um, so people who get into welding are those who love to work with their hands, as we spoke, and are not afraid to get dirty while doing it. So welders take pride in their jobs and want to do their best at every project they take on. When starting a career in welding, there are a variety of job options for those who are mechanically inclined and who enjoy contributing their skills to the tangible creation of a building, project, or structure. So many industries need career welders, including the fields of inspection, engineering, robotics, sales, project management, and education. The following are 7 careers you may not have thought of as well, which is assemblers and fabricators, boiler makers, jeweler, precious stone and metal workers, machinists, tool and die makers, sheet metal workers, plumbers, pipe fitters and steam fitters, metal and plastic machine workers. I will go back to the first page and speak a little bit about each field. So when we talk about inspection and how welders are needed in inspection. So let's take for example that there's an oil tank. You see the ones that lorries always carry oil and ferry it to petrol stations. That tank has been taken through a welding process before it is and before the oil is how do we call this? Before it is put out to the road, there has to be an inspection and certification that it has reached the criteria that it is safe for this job. So welders post graduation as a welder and experience, the East African Institute of Welding also offers inspection courses, which is non-destructive testing through um, visual testing, there's magnetic testing, there's liquid penetrant testing, there's ultrasonic testing, each of them which are specific to different fields and to different construction projects or projects that are being done by engineers. So as a welder, you can be able to do inspection, and it goes high to a higher level whereby you can become a welding engineer or after being a welding inspector. So that's how the inspection aspect comes about. We also have the engineering aspect. So for engineering, of course, as a welder, you'll be working a lot with engineers, and they need people who can read their drawings and interpret them, and also understand what is required. We have robotics. I think we had talked about this earlier in the uses of the welding products. We have sales, project management, and education. Education, of course, in training that, for example, that we do offer. We do have trainers who are welders, and after completing the welding training, they went ahead to learn how to be a competence-based trainer from the TVET CDAC level 5, and also through the Kenya Technical Trainers Institute to become a certified trainer, and we have taken them on as instructors or trainers at most. The several fields that I've mentioned here, we'll go back to them, which is assemblers and fabricators. These individuals work to put the finishing touches on a variety of consumer goods that we purchase on our daily lives. They use their welding skills to help finishing making items such as toys, electronic devices, and computers, such alike. We have boiler makers. I believe we all know what boiler makers. So this is produced steel fabrications such as plates and tubes. Original boiler makers created boilers, although today they develop a variety of different technologies, including bridges, blast makers, and other mining equipment, many of these welders travel to the work site to do their work. You will always find in some jobs where there is a work site, which is an advantage of being a welder, you have your minimum wage that you're paid, and the company also caters for the campsite where you'll be staying, the meals you'll be eating, you get medical insurance, and you also get the transport to and fro. So these are the kind of contracts that we do get for our welders, and it is important to, after we do, prepare them for the workplace, because they'll be going to such areas, and it's important that they do know when you do go do such jobs and the company is providing these facilities for you, that the job has to be up to standard. So moving forward, if you're doing a boilermaker and such alike, we do offer refresher courses for those ones who've done training and felt that it's been a while since I welded. We do offer refresher courses before you go for an assessment to be placed into industry. We have jeweler and precious stone and metal workers, which many welders work on this field, and also doing jewelry and metalwork pieces. I believe we've seen the beautiful designs that are done by Drakali artisans of an animal that is made purely out of steel or aluminium fabric, metal, and they usually put it along the road or in hotels. This is done by welders. So in terms of decorations, we have machinist tools and die makers, so welders who work on weld pieces or machines or tools that get used on a variety of different fields, including transportation. So bodybuilding for automobile, trucks, buses, aircraft, planes, or boats. The construction industry, such as welding and finishing off construction tools. This sector of welders often have to work night and weekends to get their jobs completed on a strict timeline, and for other automotive or construction projects to be able to move on forward due to their set schedules. We have sheet metal workers, and these are welders who are responsible for welding sheets of metal together to create finished products. Most sheet metal workers work to generate heating and air conditioning systems, which require these sheets of metal to be welded together to produce these units to both commercial and residential buildings. We talked about plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters. So in this field, welders work primarily in the construction industry to help work on building projects that are still yet to be completed. So they often work on plumbing and pipe fitting in both commercial and residential buildings. Their jobs are to ensure that the plumbing and piping and ductwork in buildings is up to the building code and safety standards outlined in that area. So these workers will have to travel to the construction site to perform their work, and deadlines are also standard in this field. Metal and plastic machine workers, which means they are welders who set up and operate machines that are responsible for cutting, shaping, and producing both metal and plastic pieces that get used in the construction of a variety of goods that get created in our modern consumer society. So these products are often required to get built to certain safety standards set forth by the industry for which the product is being designed. So there's a variety of options for welders when it comes to choosing a long-term career. And dream big, find a career that fits your desires and needs you as a welder. And in the end, it will work for pleasure and not a chore, as the options in the welding field are genuinely endless. And as we also speak about this, I would like to emphasize on the fact that as somebody who's looking to go into entrepreneurship, or somebody who is looking to move into opening a small enterprise business, it is important to identify from the onset what type of welding you want to, or what type of manufacturing you want to be in. For example, if you're looking to open a workshop that does doors and window fittings for, if you live in an area like where we're placed right now in Kitengela, you find that there's a lot of building going on. People are deciding to build houses, which means that they will need their gates to be made. They will need their doors and their windows to be fit and done by a welder. So if you're to set up a workshop in such a environment is that you need to learn how to do arc welding, you need to learn how to do TIG welding, and you also need to learn which metals you can work with for each of them. So from the onset, when you identify, then you come into a training institution, you are able to now choose which welding process you want to do. And from the beginning, we do help you learn how entrepreneurship skills. We also help you to create a business proposal. We also help you, we link you up with sponsors or investors or platforms that do help with funding for such things like KCB to Jiajiri or KCB Foundation and many other institutions that work in these funds for starting your own business. So it is important to always know what you're looking forward to end up with, and then now come into the training. I'd like to finally close off by also looking at important topic that is always asked, which is what women consider when, what women should, what women considering a career in welding should know. So a story that I'd like to share. There's a picture here. I hope you're seeing my screen. Yeah, so the lady in that picture was our first welding trainer and head of our department in the institute. Her career was in mechanical engineering, and she needed the practical know-how of a welder because she was considering actually becoming a trainer. And she was the first welding trainer for up to international standards for the East African Institute of Welding. And being that as a woman, it really encouraged other women to also want to go into welding. And these days, there are more opportunities in the skilled trades for women. For women looking for a new career or considering switching fields, welding is an especially promising industry when it comes to non-traditional occupations for women. Welding can be one of the most vital, in-demand, and rewarding of the skilled trades. So as you weigh your career options and consider pursuing professional welding training, there are a few facts you should know about the industry. Learn why more women are gravitating towards skilled trades and like welding, and why it could be a positive move for you too. So number one is the demand for welders is increasing quite fast. So welding, like many other skilled trades, is facing a shortage that will continue as older workers are retiring, especially with the rising needs for welders with the fast pace that Africa Industrialization Vision 2030 is being achieved. So most welders work in manufacturing, construction, wholesale trade, and the industries will continue to evolve as automation technologies improve. As welding becomes a more high-tech trade, demand may especially increase for welders with robotics, engineering, and computer programming knowledge. So with this rapid growth into the welding industry and the fact that we have older workers who are retiring, there's a high need for welders and there's demand for welders. So this is one of the things you should consider when choosing a career in welding. Welding is also flexible and active. So welding can be an active job that offers flexible hours and travel opportunities. We have welding companies, rather projects that are out of the country that you can get involved in. We do have flexible hours and as okay, for a woman, I can talk a little bit about the fact that if you do need a period of maternity leave, as a welder, you can take on a project that does 3 months, for example, of a contract, save your money and take off a maternity break up to the point whereby you decide to take up more projects. And by registering with the East African Institute of Welding Institutional Dashboard in jobs, you always update your profile and we know what jobs you have done, if you're available for a job at the moment, if you're not available for the job at the moment, and we always make sure that we link you with the jobs that are right for your experience. The average salaries are relatively high. I spoke about this earlier, and I think I should go through it again. So Welding and other skilled trades often have higher average salaries than most female-dominated careers. For example, a person working as a welder in Kenya typically earns around 45,800 per month, um, and the salaries range in Kenya from the lowest is 22,400 and 71,400 to the highest. This is the average monthly salary, including housing, transport, and other benefits, as compared to the average starting salary in most companies for new graduates is 20,000 to 25,000. So if you do the math, you go to university, you do around about 4 years in studying, you're taken as a graduate trainee in a company, and because the field that you studied in has quite a number of students applying, or rather applicants coming in, you're taken as a graduate trainee between 20,000 and 25,000, as compared to do a short-term course of 3 months and 3 months industrial training, that is 6 months, and we make sure we get you a job that the lowest salary you receive is between 22,400 to 71,400. You land anywhere in the middle there, I believe you're in a safe space. Other thing is that you can restart your career. So if you want a midlife career change, welding is an ideal option. So the informal sector is characterized by a high out input with low value due to having unskilled, qualified, trained workers. This means that there's a lot of job opportunity for young, vibrant, and qualified welders, and that TVET programs require less time and money than a 4-year degree. So there is also a range of career opportunities in welding, and skilled trades are especially promising for those who seek self-employment. 17.5% of construction workers and an estimated 7% of welders are self-employed. So you can consider restarting your career by learning a new skill. And whether you want to earn more money or enjoy more freedom, you may want to consider a career in welding. So women who weld enjoy opportunities that aren't always available to women in more traditional, sedentary jobs, and technical skills training is one way to start. Your question, what qualification from David Zero, thank you. What qualification can be given a person with more than 5 years experience in Jacali when he undertakes the process to be a certified welder, and which process can he or she go through to be certified? Thanks, David, for your question. How I'd answer this is that if you're a Jokali welder or an experienced welder and you have 5 years of welding experience, we do have something called recognition of prior learning, which is actually it's kickstarting and it's on the onset to most institutions, which means that you come into a technical institution through an application, a technical institution that's actually certified by TVET CDAC. And through that institution, we do an assessment. So it's about 3 days, another 2 days of it. You come in for the first day where we will take you through a bit of theoretical training, because that is something that you may be lacking. And then now we take you through, if you tell me if the welder has answered the application form and told me that they did arc welding, or they did TIG welding, and they did MIG welding, the chances are they don't know to what level they are. So what we'll do, we will test them on the arc welding, we'll test them on TIG welding, and we'll test them on MIG welding, and eventually give them a certificate of through the TVET CDAC recognition of prior learning, saying to which level this welder is competent. All right. And you also asked how can she go to be certified? Yeah, so after this process of assessment, she's also attended by a verifier from TVET CDAC, then you'll be able to be certified with a National Certificate of Recognition of Prior Learning, certifying you to the level that you are competent to. There's somebody who's raised a hand. All right. So I think that's the end of the session for now, as the topics for welding as a career. I'd like now to maybe just share the opportunity with everybody on how to register on the Biashara Now platform. Felicitas, if you're in it, I don't know if Doreen is available or somebody who can take them through that.
So, Mariam, the Bishara.now platform, we are sharing the link for the people to log in when you share the opportunities. The opportunities that we had said that they will be available for different welders to apply. So it will be an expression of interest, sort of, and then we shall share it. It's a direct link to Bishara.now, but we shall put here on the chat box the link for Bishara.now.
Okay, thank you so much. So up to that end, I think we've reached the end of our presentation as the East African Institute of Welding. I would like to welcome somebody, one of you from Invest in Africa for a vote of thanks. I don't know if Mr. Marega would have something he would like to add on to, or anybody else. Let me welcome you as well to be able to say something to just end the session. For now, for me, that was it. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for listening in. And I hope it has been an informative session. I believe I'll be able to host a different session as well and welcome others who are not able to attend today's session. And also just go back into also helping you understand welding, getting the right information out there, and also allowing for linkages of jobs and linkages of people who would like to go into entrepreneurship as welders. And hopefully this becomes one of those topics that we discuss, and at the end of the day we see progress from our attendees and human stories that we can share, and they say they attended the Invest in Africa and Mastercard Foundation Masterclass. Thank you so much, and asanteni.
Thank you everyone for attending this session. Please give us feedback on the feedback link, and we shall be able to give us. Mr. Malcolm, Mr. Marega, you're here. You can speak up.
Yes, I am, and thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I think Mariam has literally covered, the whole range of welding from, what it actually is to what the opportunities are in great detail. And I know that there was a limited amount of time, so she moved a little bit quickly for some of the attendees. But as we've said, we are very happy to share all of the information, whether it's a repetition, a recording of the presentations itself, or the printed out, digital format presentations. We are always excited about careers in welding, and we are quite excited also by the fact that we continue to get inquiries about, whether we have graduates from our welding programs that are ready to work. So we trust that, it stops being the kind of traditional situation that we've seen in Kenya, where people go for university courses and other academic courses and then are tarmacking for a few years before they actually get work. Whereas one of the things that we're seeing in welding is that as soon as people graduate, they are at least able to get internships, of which we are very glad that so far we've been able to have a 100% transition rate for internships. And then so far we are probably at about 30 to 40% employment, and that's for various reasons. But then we continue to get inquiries, and even now have a couple of applications open for trainees to be taken up in vehicle bodybuilding and even on the Mombasa Road Expressway. So we hope that it's an inspiring talk and career opportunities that exist within welding, and ours is to encourage and support you in any way that we can in relation to welding. One thing that we consider almost free is information. So we are very happy to continue sharing more and more information, because the more informed people are, the more interest is actually developed in this area, and we can actually lift up an entire industry that has been waning in our country. So thank you very much once again for Mariam for your presentation. We are also very grateful to Invest in Africa for giving us this opportunity to share our love and our passion for welding with a wider audience. We hope that we'll see more and more people coming into the welding space. We're also very thankful for the sponsors of this program, Mastercard Foundation, for allowing us such an opportunity. Thank you.